If you book a private destination wedding in Jaipur, you are buying a meticulously crafted illusion of safety. Behind high walls and arched gatelys, the environment is perfectly controlled, designed entirely for celebration and excess. But step outside those manicured palace grounds, and you find a landscape saturated with high-profile paranormal legends. Rajasthan is home to thousands of abandoned sites like Kuldara and the ruins of Bangar, places where the history of curses is so persistent that the government has issued warnings against entering them after dark. Aryan, an NRI visiting from America, flew directly into this clash of worlds. He arrived at one of these luxury Jaipur palaces to meet his childhood friends for a massive, multi-day wedding celebration. He and his friends, Raj, Rahul, and Geeta, were highly educated, well-traveled, and wealthy. They operated under a very specific modern assumption that logic, science, and a healthy bank account provide a permanent shield against local superstitions. That assumption created a dangerous blind spot. When you treat deeply rooted folklore as an intellectual joke, you drop your guard against threats that do not care about your tax bracket or your college degree. The cracks in their armor appeared late one night. Geeta pointed out that right behind their luxury palace sat the burned-out ruins of their old school. Local legend warned that 30 years ago, a teacher had burned to death inside, and for 3 decades, locals claimed you could still hear her pounding on the doors, begging to be let out. Aryan laughed it off. Confident in his Western rationality, he accepted a 5,000 rupee dare to march up to the ruins in the middle of the night and try to intellectually debunk the myth. He walked up to the dark structure, grabbed the heavy rusted latch, and forcefully broke the door open. The response was instant. A sudden, suffocating stench of rotting meat poured out from the dark interior. And then, from deep inside the charred hallways, a disembodied voice clearly called out Aryan's name. Their skepticism evaporated. The group immediately panicked, scrambled back to their vehicles, and fled to the safety of the illuminated palace. But in their terror, they made a fatal mistake. Aryan left that rusted door wide open. He actively broke the 30-year quarantine of the ruins and invited whatever was inside to step out into their modern world. The haunting did not stay politely confined to the ruins. By opening the door, Aryan triggered a supernatural contagion that followed them straight back to the wedding venue. Geeta was targeted first. Whenever she looked in a mirror or tried to sleep, she saw the horrific, charred figure of an old woman standing perfectly still, watching her from the corner of the room. Raj felt it next. Stepping into the palace's modern elevator, the distinct stench of rotting meat suddenly filled the enclosed space, followed by the chilling sound of phantom laughter echoing directly behind him. To understand how an entity bypasses physical walls, visualize it like this. This schematic illustrates a mechanism called an attachment haunting. When the boundary was breached, the entity latched on to the specific individuals who disturbed its domain, creating invisible tethers that track them regardless of geographic distance. Notice how the tether reacts when a node separates from the cluster. The entity deliberately exploits psychological isolation, waiting for the host to step into an enclosed space, like a bathroom or an elevator, before manifesting its attack. Their modern fortress of wealth and science provided zero protection against a contagion they had inadvertently invited inside. Desperate and terrified, the group drove back to the ruins at 2:30 in the morning. Their plan was simple: stand outside the open door, verbally apologize to the spirit, and close it for good. Instead, they were ambushed. The burnt teacher bypassed Aryan entirely and possessed Geeta. Speaking through her body, the entity began mocking Aryan before violently lunging at his throat, choking him while screaming that her 30-year thirst for blood was finally going to be quenched. A sudden noise broke Geeta's grip just long enough for Aryan to escape. They dragged Geeta into the SUV, tied her hands, and peeled out of the dirt lot. With Geeta completely possessed, modern medicine was useless. They drove 2 hours straight to the Mehandipur Balaji Temple, a site famous across India specifically for handling cases of severe supernatural possession. In local folklore, this temple functions as a spiritual court. It is designed strictly to interrogate malevolent entities and forcefully sever their connection from host bodies. Surrounded by priests and chanting crowds, the entity was finally driven out of Gita. The same group that had arrived in Jaipur laughing at local ghost stories ended the night relying on a centuries-old ritual just to survive. The next day, the wedding concluded peacefully. As a parting gift, Aryan's friends drove him past the ruins one last time to show him bulldozers tearing down the abandoned school. Aryan returned to America believing modern development had permanently crushed the threat. 2 years later, his phone rang. A child had been found dead at the brand-new school constructed over those ruins. Sightings of a horrifically burned teacher wandering the new hallways had already begun. Look at this diagram of paranormal geography. Curses do not attach to brick and wood. They infect the soil, locking on to geographic coordinates. Building a pristine structure over an infected site does not cleanse the land. It provides the dormant entity fresh victims. You cannot bulldoze a tragedy. Attempting to pave over a dark history with fresh concrete only guarantees the violence will repeat itself. What happened to Aryan's old school isn't an isolated incident. Across the country, as urban demand for education grows, new institutions are being built over sites with similar violent histories. We view schools and colleges as inherently safe, innocent spaces, yet many are constructed directly on top of India's most traumatized and forgotten lands. Millions of students today are walking the halls of institutions that unknowingly harbor hidden, violent entities in their foundations. It is time to uncover the dark histories buried under our places of learning. Join me for our upcoming series, Top 5 Most Haunted Schools and Colleges of India, where we dig up what the concrete